Hey guys, we will just wait a couple minutes here to see who else jumps on before we get started. It's Kelly, Ray, and Tara here, and we're going to go through the first part. There's two parts. The first part of our marketing plan, creating an effective marketing plan. So hopefully you guys got the download and you've printed it out or you've got it up on your screen, and we'll work through it together. And we'll get pretty much half of your most amazing marketing plan ever done. And then next month on June 11th at 5 p.m. again, we will come back on and we'll do the second half of the marketing plan. And if you guys don't want to wait that long, we did recently just publish 3 blogs, part 1, part 2, and part 3. I think I called it your most amazing marketing plan ever. So you can just go to our website, tmhbusiness.com. When I say blogs, I mean articles. Thank you, Tara. So on tmhbusiness.com, you can go to the articles section, and the last 3 articles, I believe, depending if you're listening to this now or if you're listening to the recording later, but they're called Your Most Amazing Marketing Plan Ever, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. And that will walk you through exactly how to fill out every section of this marketing plan. And if you learn by reading or writing like I do, then you probably prefer that to listening and watching me today. But yeah, should we get started? Yeah, awesome. Okay, and you can hear me in your earpiece, so everyone else can hear me. Okay, Tara says she can hear me, so I'm going to assume you guys can hear me. So today, the sections that we are going to cover together, really, really important, powerful sections, the foundation, the fundamental building blocks of your marketing plan. And a lot of times the pieces that people miss, and it's crazy to me that any marketing plan would be created without strategic objectives attached, or any of these other pieces for that matter. But we'll start with strategic objectives, talk about how important they are and how they create your whole plan. Mission statement, everyone needs a mission statement, and this is not just something you give lip service to. This is something you put your heart and soul into, involve your team in, and make sure that all of your marketing is centered around it. Defining your brand. We really want to talk about what your brand is, what it all includes, what it means. Effectively analyzing your competitive environment. So this is something that I see also missing from a lot of marketing plans, and I think it's just crazy to skip this part, because somebody who's, let's say launching a marketing company in Lethbridge versus a marketing company in Calgary, it's a very, very different competitive environment out there. And to not analyze your competitive environment, ongoingly, periodically, you should be analyzing your competitive environment every year at least, is just silly. So, and then we're going to calculate 4 really important numbers that you can use to decide whether or not your marketing activities and spends are actually effective. We're going to talk about ideal customer segments and characteristics. So who really are your ideal clients? Who's your target market segments that you want to talk to? Is there more than one segment? And what you say to those people. Last, today we're going to go over your marketing budget, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the call here, but really my goal would be for you to spend as close to $0 as possible and to get all the leads that you need and all the sales that you need in your business. So that would be my hope for you. So my definition of marketing is authentically sharing who you are. And a lot of this will come from your mission statement. It's what you do, the way that you do it, for who you do it, and why. And I know I have some friends, some really intelligent friends actually, who really hate marketing. And we have this debate sometimes, actually pretty much annually we have this debate. But one of my best friends who's really intelligent, really well educated, she believes that marketing is pretty much manipulation. She believes that a lot of the marketing and advertising that we're exposed to nowadays is, designed to trick people. She always uses the famous examples of kids targeted marketing. So when kids are being targeted with toy ads or game ads or candy ads, that sort of thing. And I do see her point. I do know that that is in existence in the world. There is some unethical marketing and advertising happening in the world, but I can guarantee you that I will never help anyone market with the intent to manipulate, trick, etc. So what my definition of marketing is, and the definition of marketing that I teach, and the definition of marketing that all of our clients use, is authentically sharing who you are. and that's it. And that's really great news for you if you're a good person who wants to serve people in a really great ethical way and you love what you do and you believe what you do is valuable. It's not so great if you're someone who, is selling something you don't believe in or is out to trick people or rip people off or something like that. But if you were, I'm sure you would not be on this call because you would not be attracted to me as a coach and my brand and what we're out to do here. So the good news is you are a great person, most likely. If you're not, please hang up now. And that's all we have to do is really share who you are and who your brand is. Okay. Strategic objectives. So strategic objectives, one of those fancy terms that we learn in university and that, we business consultants like to throw around, and we attach great reverence to the term, but really this is just your goals. So we want to decide the top 3, and less than 3 is even better. I have some clients actually who have 1 strategic objective for their marketing plan, and it makes it very, very easy for us to make decisions on whether we'll advertise in a certain place or whether we'll sponsor a certain event. So strategic objectives, we should pick 3 or less. And they're basically our big overarching important goals that if we achieve these, we will be achieving our mission, living our mission, achieving our vision for the company, hitting our budget for the company. So these look like, number 1, I would say most popular strategic objective in my experience is we'll pick a revenue target. So our target this year is to do $5 million in sales. So that would be your strategic objective number 1. Usually when people pick a strategic objective that includes revenue or dollars, I also encourage them to pick a second strategic objective that includes a gross profit margin, because we don't want to just sell $1 million or $5 million. We want to sell $5 million and keep some of that $5 million. In a lot of businesses, people are really, really busy selling things that are not very profitable. So you want to make sure that your strategic objectives are smart. They have to be measurable. I'm accidentally about to spell out the SMART acronym for SMART goals, and I do not like that acronym. But specific and measurable, those are good. Those are good words. And you want to make sure that if you achieve them, you feel like, yes, my marketing plan worked. So number 1, probably a revenue goal, but maybe not. I have some clients that I was just thinking of who have a strategic objective to hire 3 more full-time staff. And actually, they achieved that in like a week. Just brilliant. I'll probably use this example quite a bit today because it's not often that you have somebody choosing hiring as their strategic objective, but they chose hiring because they've been growing really quickly the last few years and they really needed 3 more professionals. And so they just said, you know what, all we need right now, we don't need more customers, we don't need more sales, we need more people. So they created this beautiful video about their staff and their culture and how it is to work for them. And they had their staff in the video talking about how it was to work for them. And they didn't pay any money to promote it. They just organically promoted it, tagged people like me in it, asked other influencers they knew in town to share it. They literally hired 3 perfect people in a week. So basically their marketing plan is already done. So now we're gonna, come up with a new strategic objective and work on increasing sales now that we have 3 more people in there to help. But that's an example of how well your marketing can work if you have targeted, specific, measurable objectives for your plan. If you have a marketing plan that doesn't include goals or strategic objectives, I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing it for? What are you trying to accomplish? So strategic objectives, very, very important. Come up with 1 to 3 strategic objectives that, if achieved, you'll feel like, yes, my marketing plan really worked. Okay, so you can pick any numbers that your marketing can affect, but like I said, those are some of the more common ones. Now we'll talk about your mission statement. So a lot of people sort of, actually I just had someone today, sort of roll their eyes when I ask them if they have a mission statement, or they say, yeah, we have a mission statement, we made it a long time ago. And then I say, what is it? And they don't know. Even the owner of the company doesn't know. So we don't want you to create a mission statement that goes up on the wall and then you forget about it. We don't want you to create a mission statement that you think sounds good but really means nothing to you. We want you to create a mission statement that really summarizes what you're doing for people, how you're doing it, who you want to do it for, and why. And I think the biggest missing piece for most companies is the why. And I think this is the most sort of emotion evoking or invoking piece for customers. Like when you don't mention your why, it's a real missed opportunity, I think, for customers to connect with you. Simon Sinek has a lot of stuff online about why being a very important part of your business. I highly recommend checking out some of his stuff. If you haven't looked at his stuff before, he also has some funny helicopter parent stuff, a little bit of controversial stuff on millennials and the younger generation right now, but he also has great stuff on including your why in your branding. And talks a lot about the really successful companies like Apple who are doing this properly. So in your mission statement, at first, do not try to write a perfectly worded paragraph that just sounds perfect the first time. You want to get together with the key people in your organization, involve everybody if you can, and get everyone to come up with some notes on each of these 4 pieces. What do we do? And be succinct. Try to get it down to as few words as possible. What do we do? In what way do we do it? So do we do it with passion? Do we do it with excellence? Do we do it in a timely manner? What's the way that we do it? Who do we do it for? So this is where we specify our ideal customer type. One of my favorite examples is a really nice landscaping company here in town that talks about doing their work for discerning customers with an eye for beauty. Like, you can't get much more specific than that. They really narrowed down, we want to work for people who are discerning, who have an eye for beauty. They're being very clear that they don't want to work for people who are looking for the cheapest sod. And you want to get that specific, because most people are trying to be so general and trying to talk to so many people and not leave any possible people out that they connect with no one. So when you try to speak to everybody, you really don't land for anybody. And then the last piece, why. That is so important. And this is an exercise that, as the business owner, you really need to take the lead on. But hopefully with your key people, when you start to ask why is that important? Why is that important? You kind of get down to the same fundamental reason for why you all are doing what you do. And remember, when you're brainstorming, you want to get the conversation flowing in like a fun, easygoing, relaxed, joking almost sort of environment at the beginning, because a lot of people are nervous to share. They think their ideas will sound dumb. They think they'll get shot down, or they just don't want to look silly. They might have had a bad experience as a kid raising their hand in math class or something. But if you can just start the brainstorming with some silly suggestions, that usually tends to get people's brains going. So mission statement, what do you do? What way do you do it? Who do you do it for, and why? And you can find lots of examples of mission statements online, but just be careful not to get too wordy, too long. Try to be really succinct and remove any superfluous words. Like, don't have anything in there that you don't need in there. Okay, your brand. Okay, so I don't know what you guys think of when you hear the word brand, but I've seen so many different definitions of it out there. Tara's got this cool slide up here with some of the more recognizable brands. I know Coca-Cola is a really good example of their image, that they've been branded so strongly and for so long that when you see like a red background with white writing, even if it doesn't say Coca-Cola, I've seen a couple versions of it where it says like Coca-Cola or Joca-Jola, and you don't even notice that it doesn't say Coca-Cola. That branding has been sort of imprinted on us for so long. Obviously, that's kind of what you're aiming for probably with your customer base. You want to get your brand really strong, really consistent, really memorable, really stuck in their mind. And I think a lot of people screw this up because they don't realize that your brand is not only who you say you are, how you want to be perceived, and how you really are perceived. It's how your employees drive your branded vehicles. It's how you as a business owner act at a networking event. It's the way that your storefront looks. It's the way that your social media posts sound. Is there spelling errors or grammar errors in your social media posts? Do you have swears in the content that you share? Are you online arguing about politics and being, coming across in a certain way? one of the worst things I've ever seen was a branded truck for a really well-known company in town almost running down a homeless person when they were crossing the street. And it's just, or people wearing your uniforms out in public, like drunk at a strip club or something, you know, like leaving your company vehicle at a strip club parking lot. Like you have to really think about it. Yeah, sorry, Tara, random example. I don't know why that came, because that actually happened. That's why that came to mind, one of my clients. But you just really have to think about all the places that people see an impression of your company. Also, I was thinking of another example with branding. I have a friend who works for TELUS, and he said that they're not allowed to donate their TELUS shirts to, you know, the homeless shelters or that sort of thing, because people can take those shirts and wear them and pretend to be TELUS professionals and possibly get into your home, right? But I was thinking, well, great, that's a good policy for security reasons, but for branding reasons, a lot of us probably don't want to do that. You know, a lot of us probably want to make sure that our shirts or our uniforms are worn by a certain type of professional or a certain type of, you know, person who's behaving in a certain way. So just remember, there are a lot of ways, especially nowadays with you and all your employees online, there are a lot of ways that people are seeing you and perceiving you. I know for myself, if someone comes in and they want to be a client of ours, if I've experienced them in another capacity, like for example, if I've been a customer of theirs in their business, let's say, let's just pick like a restaurant, let's say. So let's say I've gone into the restaurant and I've seen them, the way they treat their staff, or I've seen the way they treat a customer, and it doesn't sit right with me, it doesn't fit with my values. If they come in and they say, I want to work with you one-on-one, I want to be a client, there's just no way I'm going to work with that person, because I've come in contact with their brand and I've seen a side of them, you know, that to me colors, that's who they are, that's who their company is. And I don't want to be a part of that. So you have to remember, there is a lot of things involved in your brand. Your culture statements that you have for your team, that is your brand. You know, if we are polite, we treat others with kindness and respect, you know, we are a team, family first, those kind of things, that's your brand. So remember that who you are in the office, who you are out of the office, your policies and procedures, your culture statements, your mission statement, all of this is your brand. And to get more specific with your brand, you want to talk about how your product or service can fill a consumer need in a way that your competitors don't. You want to be better than your competition. This is really tough in a world where everyone is saying they have great customer service and everyone is talking about how they have integrity. But we are going to get into, in a couple minutes here, talking about a competitive analysis tool that we created that will really help you define your USP and sort of differentiate your brand. And I can see here, guys, you can go to the next slide, thanks. I can see here on your marketing plan handout that it's a little bit of a different format than the slides. And the reason we did this is because we tend to give way too much information in our learning sessions, and we've got a lot of feedback that we need to give less information per minute, basically. And that's just who I am, that's who I've always been, but I'm listening because everyone has been saying, you know, it's a lot, it's information overload, not able to implement it after. So that's one of the reasons we broke this call into two parts. And that's one of the reasons there might be a couple sections in this marketing plan that we skipped today. So you'll notice that I sort of skipped the vision statement and I sort of skipped the positioning statement and the USP section. So you can easily fill those in after. We're not going to talk about those on the call today, but if you're doing this right, if you have a consistent marketing plan and a good marketing plan, all of these answers will sound very redundant because it's all going to sound a lot like your mission statement, and it's all going to be around your unique selling proposition and your brand. And so you'll start to see when you start to fill this in, I've had people say to me, didn't we already do this part? That's a good sign if you're feeling like you're being redundant when you're filling this out. So back on track, analyze the competitive environment. So right now I'm looking at page 3 of your marketing plan handout where it says the competitive analysis tool, okay? So competitive analysis is a crucial part of any marketing plan. We talked about this earlier. I don't understand how anyone creates a marketing plan or does any marketing or spends any money before analyzing their competitive environment. Like, how do you decide what to promote or where you stand out if you don't know what your competitors are doing, right? We want to look at your competitors strengths and weaknesses and your strengths and weaknesses. And we want to decide what our really most effective point of differentiation, our unique selling proposition can be. And we want to base our brand around that. That should be part of our mission statement. That should be really a big part of who we are. And because we're authentically sharing who we are, all of this is going to be focused around the same thing or things. Okay? This will make more sense when we get to the next page here. There we go. Okay. Oh, that's one thing I wanted to mention quickly. I hear a lot of people tell me, well, I don't really have any competition. And that's great if you have gotten to a point where you feel like, you've got something really unique or something that's not imitable, or you don't really feel like anyone's on your level. That's really great. And I love to hear that confidence. And I also want you to consider my point of view on competition. A competitor is anyone who may take business from you. So if you could have got a client or a customer, but they went down the street to somewhere else, please include them on your competitive analysis, because that person just took business from you. Okay? So that's what I consider competition, if they have the opportunity to take business from you. So here's an example of a competitive analysis for a cleaning company. So we're going to list your business. Let's say that we're ABC Cleaning, okay? We're going to put our business in there at the top. We're going to list our other competitors underneath. And then we're going to fill in the first row with the characteristics of cleaning companies that are important to our clients. So hopefully you've done some client surveys in the past. If you haven't, now would be a great time to do them. I just want to make sure we're talking about this today. Yes, we are. And in those surveys, when clients talk about why they chose to work with you, what sort of things are important to them, you'll hear from their survey answers what characteristics of a cleaning company are most important to them. So it's a pretty safe bet to guess that search engine optimization is a pretty important thing. You want to come up on the first page when people are Googling cleaning company. You can also assume that pricing plays some part. I really want to caution you here, though. Unless you're Walmart, it's going to be really hard for you to win at having lowest price as your unique selling proposition. That is a losing game. If you try to get into battle with another competitor over being the lowest price, nobody's winning. You're both going out of business. That is not the best way to differentiate yourself. So please, if you're going to consider pricing as one of the characteristics that's important to your clients, that's okay to see where you stand, but do not base your marketing plan around that. That cannot be your USP. Type of business is sometimes a consideration for people. So we might have, a really large business, medium business, small business. You might even have a home-based business. I think that would make a difference for people in terms of credibility. Client care. So how well you take care of your clients. That's probably an important characteristic. Facebook reviews and Google reviews are always a big important piece too, for most people, I should say, not always. So for you, decide what those characteristics are that are most important to your ideal clients, and you're going to put them across the top. Thank you. And then you're going to come up with a rating system for each characteristic. So let's start with search engine optimization. So let's just say that for SEO, we're going to have a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the best and 1 being the worst. If the cleaning company that we're Googling comes up on the first page, if we're Googling cleaning companies and this company comes up on the first page, they get a score of 10. If they come up on the second page, they get a score of 9, etc. You decide the scale. I just want you to come up with a scale so that you can objectively assign a rating so that we can compare them. Then same thing for pricing. So if customers would prefer to pay less for cleaning services, and you might be thinking, what do you mean if? Of course they want to. That is not always true. Depending on your brand, especially with higher end brands, a lot of customers believe that if you're the cheapest, you're not the best. So they'll actually hesitate. I know for myself, I will really hesitate to buy something that's really cheap because I wonder what kind of quality it is. And I know I've seen this in a lot of professional businesses that I work with as well. I convince them to double their prices and they double their business because they have way more credibility. If you're the best at what you do and you're the cheapest, I guarantee you're missing out on a lot of ideal customers who would happily pay you a higher price because you're the best. So I would much more recommend being the best than being the cheapest. And so, sorry, off track a bit there, but for each of these characteristics, I just want you to come up with a rating scale. So for Facebook reviews, that might be an easy one. How many Facebook reviews do you have? That might be your rating scale. So if ABC Cleaning has 5 reviews, you put a 5 in there. And then I would also probably add your Facebook review rating, see how many stars that is, your Google review rating, and your number of Google reviews. So these are just some random examples we threw in here. But again, make sure that you put in the characteristics that are most important to your clients, not the characteristics that you think are most important. And that's sort of a big theme for us with working with business owners. A lot of the times we get caught up in thinking that our clients think the way that we do. And it's just not true most of the time. Sometimes it might be true, but most of the time you're assuming that your clients are thinking the way that you're thinking, and you're wrong. And that can cost us a lot of money and time, especially in terms of marketing. So one example I had with a client this week was they had this grand vision to build this experience for a customer that included all the bells and whistles. And so they had only one option for this service, and it was like absolutely the highest end. It was priced correctly, and it included absolutely everything you could ask for. And that was sort of their vision, their dream, their plan. And it's not going as well as they had hoped when they originally launched it. And we had a discussion around, well, do your clients want all those bells and whistles? Well, yeah. Are you sure? Have you asked them? Well, no. Okay, so I'm a client, and if I can just offer you this feedback, I'm not necessarily looking for all those bells and whistles. I'm actually just looking for this one result. And they were really focused on providing these bells and whistles as part of the experience. And me as a customer was saying, I don't want that experience. I just want to get in and out, and I want the result that I'm paying for. So that was a huge aha moment for them. And these are the kind of things that the aha moments that you'll also have when you start surveying your customers. We're going to talk more about that in a minute here, but just really, really, really heed that warning. Write that down somewhere. You think that your customers think the way that you think, but oftentimes you're wrong. And it's sort of a self-awareness thing. I mean, you have to remind yourself of it quite often because we run up against this in life all the time. You assume that your husband thinks the way that you think, or your neighbor thinks the way that you think. So you think, how could that person do that? Or how could they say that? Well, because they don't think the way that you think. They have totally different experiences and lenses that they're looking through, and just the way they think is very different. So remember that, especially when you're doing your marketing, because just because you think your website looks pretty and you like flowers and the color pink, doesn't mean that your ideal clients are attracted to that, right? So be careful of that. What do we have on our website that they can get if they need more help on this part? Isn't it like it's like a worksheet? USP? Not yet. If you guys want to email Tara after this, if you're stuck on the competitive analysis slide here, if you're like, hey, I need more help, you can email office@tmhbusiness.com, and Tara will send you this little workbook that we made up with a link to a video, and it's just like this instruction video on how to do what we just talked about, and I believe a blank worksheet for you to use. Oh, there's also one in your marketing plan. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's talk about tracking your marketing. So in your business, in every area of your business, you need to be tracking key metrics, and this is a big, big mistake that I see a lot of people making. We focus on 3 things really: leadership, financials, and effective marketing and sales. And I think, well, in all areas of your business, tracking is really important, but especially in marketing. So before you make decisions, you have to use data to make those decisions. You have to track things to get the data, right? So things that you must start tracking now, or hopefully you've been tracking before, because then you'll have a leg up. We want to track your leads. So anybody who inquires about your product or service, they need to get captured. You need their name, their email address, how they found out about us. Get them into your CRM, or at least onto a spreadsheet. The number of people who are buying and converting. So if we have 100 people inquire in a month and only 10 of them buy, we need to track that. So only 10 out of 100 people bought when 100 inquired. That means we're only converting 10% of them. And that is often a huge area of opportunity for businesses. I worked with a gym in Calgary who was only converting 10% of their leads, and they wanted to spend $50,000 on a marketing budget for the year. And I said, don't spend a dollar. Let's look at your inside procedures first, right? And the first sort of area we looked at in their sales process was their lead conversion. And there were so many opportunities for improvement. We changed the hours. We had someone answer the phone all the hours they were open. We had someone attend the desk all the hours they were open. And we had somebody on their Facebook Messenger constantly. And they upped their lead conversion to 50%, and they doubled their revenue. And they didn't spend a dollar on marketing. So you really, really, really want to track all the inquiries and leads, and then what percentage of them are converting, because often there is a huge area of opportunity there to just increase your conversion rate. And honestly, I think it's really scary that people are throwing more money at marketing to get more leads instead of increasing their conversion rate. Because if you're only converting 10% of leads, why would you go pay to get another 100 leads a month if you're only converting 10% of those leads? That's a huge waste of money. So work on your conversion rate first. Also, you want to make sure that you're asking customers how and where they heard about your business. So did they hear about you on Facebook? Did they Google gyms and you came up? Did they check out your Google reviews and they were impressed and that made them decide to come? Really need to record this. Okay, so on your marketing plan handout here, we're on page 4, and we're looking at the section that says last year's numbers. So what I would like you to do for this part is go to your bookkeeping software or ask your bookkeeper or your accountant to give you your marketing and advertising spends. Like give you the detailed transaction list, because we want to see how much money we spent on, let's say, Instagram marketing, how much money we spent on Facebook ads, how much money we spent on Google ads, how much money we spent on radio or TV or newspaper or mail outs, whatever else you guys are doing. We want to know how much money was spent on those. And then we want to know how many leads came from each of those. So in addition to the actual dollars that you spent on these things, we want to look at the time. So let's say that you have an administrative assistant and she spends 5 hours a week on Facebook. And let's say that you pay her $20 an hour. If you include labor burden in that, add another 20% to that, let's say $24 is what they cost you. So if she's spending 5 hours a week at $24, oh, I shouldn't have done that to myself, $120. So $120 a week, I think, is the cost there. You want to include that in that cost, okay? So let's say Instagram, we spent $1,000 on Instagram, and we also paid our assistant $496 for the month in labor. Your total cost for Instagram is $1,496. I have a broken arm, so I cannot write these things down and calculate this. So if I'm wrong, please don't write any comments about how I'm wrong. Just calculate it for yourself. And then, so once you have that cost, we can calculate all of these things, okay? So return on investment. How much money came in from Instagram? So we're gonna get that from looking at our customers that came from Instagram and how much they spent. And we wanna also look at how much we spent on Instagram. So what came in and what went out. Then we wanna look at our cost per customer. So if we spent $1,496 on Instagram and we got 10 customers from it, they cost us $149.60 per customer. And then we look at the leads, so cost per lead. Take the amount you spend and divide it by the number of leads you got from that source. So if we spent $14.96 on Instagram and we got 1,496 leads, it would be $1 per lead. And I think any one of these numbers by itself is not that helpful, but when you look at all 4 of them for each type of spend, it can be really eye-opening. I know sometimes return on investment is not the best measure, but I do think that it works quite a bit of the time. So that's why I included that one on here. Last is the conversion rate. We were talking about that on the last slide. We really want to look at, let's talk about TV, okay? I'm sure that nobody's on TV anymore, but if you were, TV used to be quite expensive. But for some companies, it could bring a really high quality lead. So let's say that for TV, you were spending $1,000 per lead or something, but that lead always converted. So your conversion rate on TV leads was 100%. Every time somebody heard about you on the TV, they became a customer. But then on Facebook, let's say you got 1,000 leads a month, but only 100 of them ended up buying. That would mean our conversion rate on Facebook was only 10%. So this is why I want you to take all 4 numbers into consideration, not just 1 or 2 or 3. So I hope that you can see how looking at these different numbers for each type of source can provide a lot of insight for you. So once you have this data, like let's say for last year, for example, and you can look at these numbers, it'll help you decide if you want to do it again next year. In addition to looking at these numbers though, we want to really look at where our ideal customers are hanging out. Are they or what kind of media they're consuming? Like, are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they reading magazines? You know, are they in the places that we're spending money? Sorry guys, I should have had this slide up while I was talking. And okay, so let's talk about those ideal customer segments and characteristics. So if you have a business that has been around for a while, you probably have a lot of past or existing customers, and that is really, really great. You may have heard of people talking about marketing personas or like avatars, and that always drives me nuts when they sort of make up a person. Like, we're going to market to Sally, and she's 35 and her kids are 10 and 8 and she likes yoga, and they just sort of make this persona up. I think that's really silly to do when you could just look at your actual customers and come up with this stuff, because this is actual data that you can depend on. So let's say that in your business you've had 1,000 customers. I want you to look at the top 10%. So hopefully you've got some sort of software program, or you can just do it in a spreadsheet that allows you to sort by spend. That's usually a good place to start. Who spent the most money? That's usually where that's a good at least starting point to find your ideal customers. So we want to look at the top 10%. And so if you have 1,000, that's the top 100. And we want to survey these people. Or if we have really great information on them already, we can use the existing information we have, but I'm pretty sure you'll have to do surveys to find out these things. So let's say we have 1,000 customers, we take the top 100, and we're going to send them a survey on Google Forms. We love Google Forms. It's free. It aggregates the data really helpfully. You can also use SurveyMonkey. I think that it charges after 10 questions now. You have to pay a fee. Or you can do good old-fashioned paper surveys. You know, if you have a sort of business where clients have to wait in the waiting room at all, I find it really, really effective to ask them to fill out a survey on a clipboard while they're waiting. You sort of have a captive audience at that point. Your response rates to email surveys can be quite low. I do have some clients who attach a really great reward. Like, I have one client who's giving away a $250 Visa gift card as you get an entry into the draw for the gift card. And then I had another client who said, once you complete the survey, show us your proof that you did the survey and you get 10% off your next purchase in the store, that sort of thing. So feel free to incentivize people to do these surveys, because this data is so important. And get creative. If your customers like to talk to you on the phone, call and do the survey over the phone. Don't be leading, but we need to find out this information. Or you can send the survey from Google Forms online, or SurveyMonkey, or you can do it in person, like I said. So we want to find out their demographics. We want to know how old they are, what gender are they, what do they do for a living, how much money do they make, are they educated, do they have a university degree, did they finish high school? We want to know as much as possible about these people, because we're going to find out all the characteristics that your ideal customers have in common, and we're going to use those to find more people like them. So for example, we've found so many just hilarious, surprising commonalities in the past that gave us a lot of insight and leverage to spend less money on marketing. So let me give you an example. With one company, we found that 90% of the ideal clients lived on acreages or farms outside of Lethbridge, and they were all between 45 and 55. They all had kids, and I think that that was the most commonly thing said, grandkids were their hobbies. Oh yes, and they all drove SUVs. So using all that information, can you see how you could talk specifically to your ideal type of customer on, let's say, a social media post, or when you're putting together like a video? And also, if you know what media they consume, so if they all say we're on Facebook, but we're not on Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, then you would only talk on Facebook to these people. You could also, if you're going to do ads, you can target the ads to their age, their postal code, their habits and interests, their professions. That's what's really, really cool about online marketing nowadays. And some people think that it's creepy and an invasion of our privacy, but I think it's pretty cool that when I start looking for something, I start seeing ads for that something on my computer and my phone. Tara's shaking her head. She's in the other camp. But I think it's very useful, and it also makes our marketing a lot more effective and less expensive. So make sure you find this stuff out, because if you have existing customers, ideal existing customers, and you are not asking these questions, that is like a gold mine of data that you are not tapping into. You also want to know what do they like about you? So why are they coming to you? What made them choose you? We want to know how they heard about you, where else they've seen you. Like, do they see you on Facebook? Do they see your billboard? What do they buy from you? So what's the most popular product? Like, what are your ideal customers mostly interested in from you? Why do they buy from you? What would have them stay loyal to your business? What would have them leave? So this is a really great question. A lot of my clients are surprised by these answers when they ask their ideal clients, you've been doing business with us for 2 years, and we really appreciate you, and here's a survey, and they get into the survey and everything's very positive. But the one question about what would have them leave, some of the answers that they get are they never could have guessed. And, for example, it could be something about their waiting room, or it could be something about their messaging on social media, or it could be, well, if your competitor down the street got this new piece of equipment, I would go there. So you can find out just some amazing, amazing things from these surveys, and you need to, because otherwise you can be losing customers without realizing why, and you don't have this data that you can use to attract more customers like them. So the reason on your marketing spreadsheet here we have customer segments 1, 2, and 3 is because if you get into your ideal clients, especially if you have a really large database of existing or past clients, and you start to see that, well, my ideal customers range in age anywhere from like 30 to 60. That is much too big of an age range, because you can't put out a message that speaks to a 30-year-old and also speaks to a 60-year-old. They're just in very different stages of their life. They have different interests and habits. And that'll go back to that thing that I said about if you're trying to talk to too many people or to everyone, you'll reach no one. So if you start to see, well, we have sort of a group within our ideal clients of 30 to 40-year-olds, then we have another group of 45 to 55-year-olds, then you would create 2 segments. And you would notice that some of their habits and preferences and answers to your surveys would differ among those 2 different groups. So I would up to 3 segments, but if you can only have 1 segment, it's a lot easier for your marketing. But like I said, if you see that their ages are way all over the place, you need to break it up into segments. What media do they consume? Yeah, we have that on there. Okay. The last piece that we're going to talk about today is the marketing budget. So I said earlier in the call, ideally, I want you spending no money on marketing. Ideally, we want you just providing such amazing products and services that people are leaving great online reviews about you. They're sending you new customers. They're also doing business with you repeatedly. And you really don't have to spend too much on marketing. You can give to charities that you believe in or do some sponsorships or things like that, but hopefully not having to spend too much on marketing. If you do this marketing plan correctly and you do your homework and you find out all these answers, you will be able to spend a lot less than you're currently spending, especially when you do those calculations. But there are a lot of things that you can do with your existing staff or yourself to decrease your marketing budget. So increasing your lead conversion. If you're converting more leads, you don't need to buy more leads, right? Having your happy customers leave you Google reviews, and we'll talk about that in the next call. That's a huge, important part. Doing those calculations to see if what you're doing is making you money, if those marketing spends are working. And also making sure that anyone who's involved in your marketing or your sales, so handling leads, recording data on leads, converting the leads into customers, making sure that they all have really good KPIs, key performance indicators or goals, and you're giving them feedback often so that you tell them like you need to convert 50% of leads into customers, You need to do $100,000 in sales. You need to make sure these people have goals and that they're getting consistent feedback, especially if they're younger. Everyone needs feedback, and if you don't give them goals, I'm not sure how you can expect them to really do a good job. So make sure that you take your strategic objectives, start with that, and when you're looking at goals for your staff, make sure that if they hit their goals, you'll hit your goals. Okay? Now, that sums it up for today. We will be back on June 11th to do the second half of the marketing plan. Like I said, if you don't want to wait till June 11th, feel free to go to our website, tmhbusiness.com, under the articles tab, and there are 3 parts there, part 1, part 2, part 3 of your most amazing marketing plan ever. And you should have no problem using my notes there to finish your marketing plan. And I hope this really, really helps you guys. And I thank you so much for being a part of it today. We will put the recording on our Facebook page in the next couple days. And I hope to see you guys on June 11th.